Hi, and welcome to the Fierce Boys podcast. I'm your host, Brigette Gildemaster. This is a podcast for those who are ready to leave behind survival mode after abuse, where we talk about what it looks like to embody who you are as an individual, learn to love yourself, and bring to light healing after surviving abuse from relationships and religion. Pop your earbuds in to hear heartfelt and powerful intensity from myself and guests. Be ready to put into place actual tools and gather insight for you to use on your healing journey. Hello, and welcome back to the Fierce Boys podcast. I'm your host, Brigette Gildemaster. Today, I have a guest with me, Serene, and she's going to be talking today about worthiness. So I absolutely love it, since that is the main goal of the Fierce Voice podcast, is for every woman to know how valuable they are and how worth it they are. So, Susan, I'll let you go ahead and take it over and introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Serene, and I'm a speaker to youth from middle school all the way up through college. And I speak on four things: worthiness, enoughness, luminosity, and that we're all loved. And I kind of call it the be well principle. But the main one that I really focus on is our worthiness. I feel like everybody can use a little boost in that regard. But my heart kind of lies with the younger generation, so that they can make better choices as they go forward and bring the next generation into this world.
Oh, yeah. So it is so needed. I mean, I know a lot of my adult choices have stemmed from my thought processes as a child even. And so, yeah, that's really hard work, and really, yeah, see, I told you that picture was gonna fall. I knew it wouldn't stay. Okay. But yeah, so just that, those thought processes, even as a child, what led you to want to share this with everyone?
Well, it all goes back to when I was about 7, and I was sick, and I was called for dinner, and I went to the stairs, and I just couldn't walk up the stairs. I had zero energy. I actually fell down on the stairs, and I'm looking at the carpet, and I'm called again. Susan, come up, it's dinner time. And I just can't move. And my dad comes and he says, that's it, I'm taking her to the hospital. And my stepmom says, don't take her to the hospital. Wait until Monday. She's not worth spending the money on. So since I was 7, I've had those feelings of unworthiness, especially around spending money on myself, getting the medical care that I need, and really just a general feeling of worthiness. I was taken to the hospital. Thankfully, my dad did stand up to her, and he took me to the hospital, where I was there for a week, 7 whole days. And you might wonder, oh my gosh, why were you in the hospital for 7 whole days? I had strep throat. That's it. Simple antibiotic could have cured me in a couple of days, but they refused to take me. Well, stepmom did not want my dad to take me to the doctor and pay the copay. So instead, they ended up having to pay whatever they had to pay for the hospital. Fast forward, I'm in my mid-30s. Life has changed completely. I went through a divorce, got remarried, and I still struggled with those feelings of unworthiness, especially when it came to money. I remember working on it really, really hard and trying to tell myself that I'm worthy, like every day, telling myself I was worthy. And I could talk myself into it, but it took myself talking to be able to spend money on myself. As simple as, like, I was at a grocery store and I wanted vanilla ice cream. I was making brownies or something and wanted vanilla ice cream. My favorite vanilla ice cream is Breyers, the Breyers natural vanilla with like the 4 ingredients or whatever. So I'm standing there looking at the freezer section, and Breyers is $1 more than Turkey Hill ice cream. And I'm like, because Turkey Hill was on sale. And I'm like, okay, well, you could just get the Turkey Hill, okay, because it's on sale. Should save the $1. And I'm like, but I'm worth the $1. Yeah, but are you? Yes, I am. And I literally had to be like, I'm like arguing with myself, thankfully in my head and not out loud. People didn't like look at me, but I eventually did get the Breyer's ice cream. And I realized then that it was like, that was kind of a turning point for me. And I really wanted to share kind of the tips and things that I'd learned throughout the years. And looking at the interactions I have with other people, I realized that they are feeling these feelings of unworthiness. And the COVID pandemic just exacerbated that and really brought that out, especially when it comes to the kids. You heard the kids, people were telling that, I'm not a teacher. These kids need to get back in school. And the kids felt unworthy because they're like, well, am I not worthy of just you teaching me, mom or dad? But I think the parents also felt unworthy, like, I can't teach them. I'm not worth enough to teach them. So it's kind of like an ongoing cycle that I really want to try to help break.
Yeah. Yeah. I never even thought of that. My kids weren't in school, old enough to be in school yet during the pandemic. And yeah, but I grew up homeschooled. And so that's an excuse, air quotes, a lot of parents use, is that they aren't valuable enough to teach their kids when, like, just being human is so valuable, right? Like, we all have had a life and we all have those life lessons that only you can teach and only you can share. And, like, yeah, that's super powerful. Um, what have you been able to, do you have a story where you have been able to influence a younger youth than yourself by sharing your story? I always love hearing those because I just love that when people's eyes light up and you made that impact.
Yeah, well, I volunteer in both a local middle school and a high school, and I also started an LGBTQ group. So I'm around, then that's for middle and high school. So I'm around a lot of youth. And I actually had one of the youth that I volunteer with has struggled with a lot of mental issues. And I think a lot of it stems from this child is being raised by somebody other than their parents because of drug issues in the past. And they just don't feel worthy. They've even told me that they don't feel worthy. And so I started, every time I meet with them, which is once a week, I will then tell them, remember, you are worthy, you are enough, and you are loved. And they tell me how cringy I am. And then they also say, but I notice, like, if I'm saying it as they're walking out the door, they just stop and wait and listen, and then they leave. And they actually told me, I gave them a little, I don't even remember what it said. It was like, you're a star or something. At the end of, like, 2 years ago, at the end of school, I gave them this little star ribbon or something. They came back the next year because I only see them during the school year, and said to me, I still have that. I still looked at it all summer. And this year they're doing much, much better. I've been working with them for 3 years now. So yeah, so it's things like that. And I'm like, I'm impacting these people one-on-one. And it's not even just kids too. Like, I've said it to my mom, you're worthy of my time and attention, or helping you fix your phone or whatever, and she has told me, no, I'm not. And I'm like, yes, you are. So I think we all can use that reminder. And I think we're worthy just because we're here, like everybody. It doesn't matter what you've done, what you haven't done, what's been done to you. You're worthy simply because you're alive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I know you're in the speaking world too, and I have other friends speaking, and in those beginning stages of that fear, and even putting yourself out there and like applying for that gig or whatever. I've had other sisters say things like, well, but am I even, should I even be applying if I don't know that should I be taking up that time in that space? And it's like, yes, you're human. You have that opportunity. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, we do. We have a right to hold space no matter where that space is. We have a right for that
Exactly.
space. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. I just love that so much because it is. And it's those little things, like I know in my youth, emotions were fluff and stuff. And, sure, you said, I love you and all the things, but if they weren't recognized and being proud of and appreciated was not really a thing. And so I know how impactful that is when someone actually says, even if it's in passing or routine or whatever, it just lights up another person. And like, oh my gosh, what you're doing is going to carry through that child's life forever. Like they will remember that forever. It's so impactful. And to pass it on, right? Like they'll remember what you did, what you were brave enough to speak up and say, and do it for another person. It's just
That's my
so
hope.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, it's so amazing. So I love that. Yeah. Do you have you found, being in that kind of environment as a child yourself, any specific tricks or tools or affirmations or routines that you have done to change that inner dialogue? I know we all do come to that point. I love your story about the ice cream because yeah, you're so worthy of that Briar's ice cream. Totally agree. Briar's is the best. But like we do, there comes a point where, we always have to, this is the turning point. I'm done. I'm saying enough to this. And maybe it doesn't change right away, but you've made that commitment to yourself at that point. But in that process of changing, is there any specific tools or tricks that you used to really push yourself to change that inner dialogue?
I would say to start with, I started telling myself, I actually every morning before, like after I get dressed and all of that, right before I leave, I look in the mirror and I'm like, Season, you are worth, you're enough, you're luminous, and you're loved. And then I take a page from Mel Robbins and I give myself a high five on the mirror and I start my day. But I will say that probably the thing that has helped more than anything, so that got me so far, right? Telling myself repeatedly, trying to change the voice. But what really helped me more than anything else was EMDR therapy. I don't know if you've heard of that, but eye movement desensitization reprogramming or something like that. That has absolutely, completely changed my life. Like on so many aspects. The same stepmom, we went out to dinner and I always had to share with her because she obviously had her own issues and she was always on a diet. So I would have to share a meal with her and she ordered salmon and I had never had salmon before. And so I asked what it is and they're like, oh, it's fish. And I was like, okay, I like fish. But then the fish came out and it was pink. It wasn't white. It was kind of weird looking. It smelled different and I didn't want to eat it. And I was threatened that I was going to be held down and it was going to be shoved into my mouth. And so I took a bite and I'm obviously worked up and I'm crying about this. And I take a bite and I immediately get up and I throw up right next to the table on the floor. And the waitress comes over and she's like, oh, honey, it's okay. I am about 7, maybe 6. Oh, honey, it's okay. I'll clean it up for you. And my stepmom says, no, she will clean it up. And so I'm crying. I'm cleaning up my own vomit in a restaurant filled with people who are trying not to stare, but obviously staring, because what would you do if you saw a child in this situation? And since then, was never able to eat salmon. I couldn't even have it in my house. My kids, I have 4 kids, and 3 of the 4 love salmon. They could only cook it out on the grill and eat it outside. They could not bring it inside until I did EMDR therapy on it. And then not only can I smell it, it can be cooked in my house, but I've actually ordered it and eaten it at a restaurant. I went almost 40 years without touching salmon. And now I actually ordered it once. This is a fairly new development last couple of months. So I've ordered it once and I've eaten it and I enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, I was missing out all these years because of that trauma that happened when I was a child.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I have heard of EMI therapy, but not in depth. And so that is absolutely amazing to me. I know it's been on my list to look into further.
I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. That's probably the most drastic story, but there's like several other things that I had trouble with because of either childhood trauma or ex-husband trauma as well. So
yeah. Oh, that's amazing to hear. I think your story is actually the first like in-depth story I've heard about that, and instead of just a broad, oh, this helped me. So that is amazing because yeah, I mean, that's a trigger for you is what, that the fish was a trigger. I'm sure the smell and everything, like you said, you had your kids cook it outside, all of it. And that's a huge one. I know there are things for me like that too in my past. It'll immediately take me back, and so that is absolutely fascinating.
And it's important to remember that, our bodies are trying to protect us. I had this traumatic experience. So my body said, okay, brain, if you smell salmon, you're going to feel nauseous. So that's why my kids couldn't eat it around me, or, even being in a seafood restaurant, if somebody walked by with it on a tray, I would start to feel nauseous. But it was my body protecting me, and brain probably more so than my body, but it just needed a little help to say, hey, it's okay now. You're not in that situation. You can let go of that. So it's been really transformative, but it also helped with the general feelings of unworthiness, because that kept coming up. All of these things, the negative belief I was telling myself was that I wasn't worthy. I wasn't worthy of whatever it might be. So it's been very, very helpful. But I did get pretty far before I had the EMDR, but then I was like, I just want to finish this and I can't seem to break through on my own. So we actually did EMDR also on that event when I didn't get taken to the hospital when I had strep throat. And because I was telling myself that I wasn't worthy, that I still struggled with, should I go to the doctor or not? Or should I, get medical care for myself? And it was a struggle for many, many years.
Yeah. It's amazing what gets so hardwired into our nervous system.
Right.
It really is. Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing. You should be very proud of yourself. Like, I feel like that is.
I am.
Yes. Yeah, that is. And those are amazing things, and I love what you said, how you got there a lot on your own, because it is choosing to overcome these things is the beginning steps. But then there are so many tools out there that to just solidify it and to just help calm that nervous system and rewire it. And so I love that you made that choice to find that resource that worked for you. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So, so tell us where we can find you. If somebody, related to your story and wants to know more, you're a speaker, I know that. If you have any upcoming books or other events or podcasts or anything you're going to be on, a website, all of that, your social links, all that good stuff.
Everything's pretty much Season Serene. I'm pretty much the only one out there. So it's seasonserene.com. LinkedIn is Season Serene. Instagram, Season Serene. Facebook, Season Serene. I'm not on Twitter or TikTok. So it's pretty much just LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and then the website. But it's all just Season Serene.
Perfect. Makes it easy. Yeah, that's the way mine all is. So that's awesome. Well, awesome. I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing with our audience just what you've been through and what you've overcome, and that you're just brave enough to speak up, because it's so impactful. So impactful. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, we will catch you next time on the Fierce Boys podcast. Thank you for joining us today on the Fierce Boys podcast. I truly hope you found healing insight, tools, and a space held for you in this journey. We are all in this together, and you are not alone. You can find me, your host, Brigette Gildemaster, on all social media platforms, and check out my website at www.brigittegildemaster.com, where you can listen to past Fierce Voice episodes, check out my media features, find my books, and inquire about booking me for your next virtual or in-person event. My keynotes are impactful with real-life stories, actionable tools, and inspiration for healing after a life-altering experience. Or check out my workshop event to learn more about how you can prevent abuse in your area. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time on the Fierce Voice Podcast.